The wooden wolf screamed when Hale broke its face in half, and I was the only person in the examination hall who heard it. A heartbeat later, while splinters rolled across the polished floor and the examiner wrote the lowest possible grade beside my name, I realized I had died twice in less than 10 minutes. The first death had been simpler. A painted palace wall had come down on me during a night rehearsal in a theater that could barely afford fresh rope. I had been underneath the frame because the director wanted one more adjustment before opening. I remembered the warning creak. I remembered looking up. I remembered thinking that the brace had been cut too thin to hold the weight. Then there had been darkness. Then bright lamps, a room full of students in gray uniforms, a knife in my hand, and a wooden mask on the desk before me. The body I had awakened in belonged to a boy named Cal. That was convenient, because my old name had also been Cal. The memories that came with the body were incomplete, more like props left backstage after everyone had gone home. I knew the academy. I knew that students here learned to summon temporary familiars through crafted vessels. I knew that today was the practical examination that decided our first-year track. I also knew that the mask on my desk was mine. Or rather, his. Mine now. I had carved it in a panic after waking, guided by muscle memory from two lives that suddenly overlapped. In my old world, I had built stage frames, repaired broken furniture, carved simple masks for amateur productions, and learned how to make cheap materials look convincing from 20 rows away. In this world, the boy whose body I wore had barely passed introductory carving. The result was ugly. It was a wolf only because I had put ears on it. When I pressed the mask to the summoning circle, a creature the size of a house cat crawled out of the light. It had oversized paws, a crooked wooden snout, and the uncertain expression of an animal that had been called into existence before deciding what kind of animal it wanted to be. A few students laughed. Hale did not. He was a broad man with iron-gray hair and a left hand covered by a leather glove. He watched the little wolf turn in a circle, sniff my shoe, and sit on its own tail. "Unstable identity," he said. I had not known what that meant. "Sir?" "A summon without a defined role becomes unpredictable. Dismiss it." I looked at the creature. It looked back. I did not know the dismissal command. The old Cal's memories offered nothing useful. Hale took my hesitation for disobedience. He stepped forward, lifted the mask from the focus stand, and snapped it across his knee. That was when the wolf screamed. Not with its mouth. The sound went through the bones of my skull. The creature vanished. The broken mask fell in 2 pieces. Hale wrote a single letter on my evaluation sheet. Fail. The class moved on. I did not. I stared at one half of the wooden snout until the next student bumped my shoulder and told me to leave the circle. I picked up the smaller fragment when no one was looking. That night, I sat on the floor of a storage room beneath the old Academy Theater and tapped the fragment twice with my knuckle. Tock, tock. I had done that before every repair in my old life. Wood spoke if you listened. A clean sound meant strength. A dull sound meant a hidden split. A hollow sound meant trouble. The fragment answered with a faint pulse of warmth. Then words appeared in the air. Living stage system awakened. Broken face detected. Memory remains. A role was ended before completion. Would you like to remember it? I stared until my eyes watered. There was no glowing goddess, no explanation of reincarnation, no convenient list of attributes telling me that I had extraordinary strength, infinite mana, or a divine bloodline. There was only a piece of cheap wood and a question. Yes, I whispered. The letters changed. First class available. Facemaker. Condition. Restore what another dismissed as disposable. I laughed once, because the line was so perfectly aimed at me that it felt insulting. In my old life, people had treated scenery like that. Build it, paint it, use it for 3 performances, break it apart, throw it away, build the next illusion. I had spent years fixing things that others considered cheaper to replace. Apparently, death had not improved my career prospects. I set the fragment down and looked at the rest of the mask. I had recovered the larger half from a waste bin after the exam. The break was bad, but clean. The left ear was missing. One eye had split through the center. I had no proper clamps, no good glue, and almost no money. So I stole nothing. That decision was important to me. The old Cal had been poor enough to consider it. I had been poor enough in my previous life to understand why. But when your hands are your trade, you learn early that every shortcut teaches them something. I did not want my first lesson in a new world to be that desperation excused everything. I searched the storage room instead. That was how Nell found me. She opened the door with a lantern in one hand and a broom in the other. She was short, sharp-eyed, and wearing a theater club coat several sizes too large for her. Dust streaked one cheek. Her dark hair had been tied up with a strip of red stage ribbon. She looked at me. She looked at the broken wolf. Then she looked at the cabinet I had opened. "If you are stealing glue," she said, "take the bad jar. The good one belongs to people who pay club fees." "I am not stealing it." "Excellent. Then put it back." "I need to repair a mask." "Also excellent. Pay club fees." "I have 3 copper crowns. Our monthly fee is 12. I have an excellent personality. That is not accepted currency." I considered this. What if I repair something? Nell's eyes narrowed. 5 minutes later, she led me into the main theater. It was beautiful in the way old working spaces were beautiful. Not polished, not grand, useful. The Academy's newer halls had marble floors, crystal lamps, and summoning stages built with silver inlay. The theater had warped boards, patched curtains, ropes with 3 generations of knots, and seats that had been repaired so many times that no 2 rows matched. I loved it immediately. I also saw 37 problems before reaching the stage. 1 loose rail, 2 cracked floorboards, a counterweight tied with the wrong knot, a warped scenery cart, a support beam with moisture damage, a hanging lamp that made my shoulders lock the moment I heard it creak. I stopped walking. For 1 ugly second, I was back beneath the falling palace wall. My mouth dried. Nell noticed. "That one is safe," she said. I forced myself to look up. "No, it is not." She frowned. I climbed onto the edge of the stage, reached for the guide rope, and tugged once. The upper pulley shifted sideways. Nell stopped smiling. "Do not stand under that," I said. "I wasn't planning to." "Neither was I last time." She did not ask what I meant. That was one of the reasons I eventually trusted her. We spent an hour lowering the lamp. I repaired the cracked pulley block with a scrap of hardwood and replaced the frayed line with rope from a damaged backdrop. Nell watched my hands. "You really know stage work." I did. "Did?" I tightened the final knot. "Long story." "Everything in theater is a long story." She handed me the good glue. I repaired the wolf mask at a narrow workbench backstage. I did not hide the break. That surprised even me. In my old life, I would have sanded it, filled it, painted over it, and made the damage disappear beneath the surface. But when I touched the split through the eye, I remembered the scream. So I joined the halves and left the scar visible. I carved a new ear from pale scrap wood. The color did not match. I could have stained it darker. I did not. The mask looked worse than before. It also looked honest. The living stage system returned. Restoration accepted. First role may resume. Facemaker acquired. Living mask, Ash. Role, young hunter. Memory scars, 1. Lesson retained. The breaking hand is dangerous. Ash appeared on the bench. This time there was no circle, no chant, no flare of light. One moment the repaired mask lay in front of me. The next, a small wooden wolf stood with its front paws beside my carving knife. It looked around. Then Hale's leather glove flashed through my memory for no reason. Ash yelped and crawled behind my arm. Nell dropped the broom. I forgot how to breathe. The little creature trembled against my sleeve. I touched its head. Easy. Ash stared up at me. I felt something that was not quite language and not quite emotion. A picture, a hand, a sudden snap, fear. That was the moment the problem stopped being academic. If Ash remembered being broken, then Hale had not destroyed a spell. He had killed something unfinished, and I had brought it back. For the rest of that first night, I did not sleep. I tested nothing dangerous. I did not order Ash to attack objects or run into walls. I watched. He followed moving shadows. He sniffed sawdust. He learned that the edge of the stage was higher than he expected and fell off at once, landing in a rolled curtain. The second time he approached the edge, he slowed down. The system chimed softly. Roll experience gained. Young Hunter observed a hazard and adapted. No level appeared. That pleased me more than a level would have. The system did not reward repetition. It rewarded learning. By dawn, I understood the first rule. A mask was born from intention, but it grew through experience. By breakfast, I understood the second. Experience could be lost. I had tried to smooth a rough edge near Ash's repaired eye. The moment the file touched the scar, he recoiled. The system appeared. Warning: memory scar alteration detected. Further repair may remove retained lesson. Proceed? I put the file down. No. Ash licked my wrist with a tongue that felt like warm paper. Nell, who had returned carrying stale bread and 2 cups of bitter tea, leaned against the workbench. You talk to it. Him. She raised one eyebrow. I looked at Ash. He was chewing the end of a stage ribbon. Probably him. Very scientific. I died yesterday. The words came out before I could stop them. Nell went still. I cursed silently. I had no intention of telling anyone about reincarnation, not because I expected accusations of possession. I did not know enough about this world to predict the reaction. Mostly, I simply did not want to explain something I barely understood myself. So I pointed at the evaluation paper sticking from my pocket. Socially, I added. Nell stared at me for 3 seconds. Then, she laughed so hard she spilled tea on the floor. That became my first day in the new world. I had failed my examination, joined a dying theater club without formally agreeing to it, acquired a supernatural crafting class, and resurrected a wooden wolf who feared one of my teachers. By evening, I also owed Nell 9 copper crowns in club fees. It was an improvement. The academy did not expel students for one failed practical, but a failing grade closed most combat summoning courses to me. Traditional summoners shaped mana through approved vessels and produced obedient familiars that vanished when dismissed. Their creatures were temporary patterns, useful, powerful, and empty when gone. Mine were not. That difference frightened me enough that I kept it secret. For a week, Ash lived backstage. I attended classes during the day and repaired the theater at night. Nell accepted labor in place of fees after discovering that I could fix more than masks. In return, she gave me a corner of the storage room as a workshop. The first thing I built there was not a weapon, it was a broom holder. The second was a mask. I wanted to learn whether Ash was unique. I chose a piece of soft alder from a discarded scenery frame. I carved a broad, calm face with a square jaw and painted a simple white stripe down the forehead. My intention was clear. Carry, lift, move, do not complain. I had known stagehands like that. The summon emerged as a short creature with long arms, a flat wooden back, and feet shaped like wedges. The system spoke. Living mask confirmed. Role, porter. Name not required. I felt strange relief. The system did not force every creation into personhood with a label. Some identities could remain simple. The porter lifted a box of costumes when I pointed to it. Then it lifted a chair, then another box, then Nell. She had been standing on the box. "Put me down," she said. The porter continued toward the storage room. "Cal, I am learning. Learn faster." I stepped in front of it. "Only carry objects that I indicate directly." The porter stopped. Nell folded her arms while still held 3 feet above the floor. "I would like to be indicated as not cargo." The system chimed. Role refinement accepted. Porter learned, a person is not an object unless clearly consenting. I stared at the words. Nell stared at me. "Your magic has needed that lesson before?" she asked. "I really hope not." The porter put her down. That was how I discovered another rule. Instructions could refine a role, but only lived mistakes made the lesson permanent. By the end of the second week, I had made a light bearer, a curtain crawler, 2 small sweepers, and a bird-shaped messenger that refused to fly through rain because I had carved its wings too delicately. None were strong. All were useful. The theater began to change. Tasks that had taken Nell and me an entire evening were finished in an hour. The porter moved scenery. The crawler climbed rigging and carried line where human hands could not safely reach. Ash searched beneath seats for dropped tools. The light bearer followed whoever was working and kept both hands free. I started renting the simplest masks to other students. Not the living masks themselves. I refused to sell ownership. Instead, customers paid for a role contract. The mask remained mine. The familiar performed a defined task, and I inspected it afterward. Nell called it absurdly cautious. Then one customer returned a porter with a deep chip in its shoulder and claimed it had arrived that way. The system showed me the memory scar. Impact from dropped stone crate. Protective response retained. I looked at the customer. He looked at me. I doubled the repair fee. Nell stopped calling the contracts absurd. At the end of the first month, the theater club had paid one full installment of its debt. That mattered because the debt was not symbolic. The academy planned to close underused student facilities at the end of the term. The old theater occupied valuable interior space. If the club failed to reduce what it owed for maintenance and materials, the stage would be dismantled and the room converted into storage for combat equipment. Nell's goal was simple: keep the stage. Mine became simple too: make enough useful masks to keep my workshop. I told myself that was all. It was easier than admitting I had started to care about the place. The first month also changed Ash. He grew no larger, but he became clever. He learned to follow scent traces from objects. He learned which staircases became crowded between classes. He learned that kitchen workers sometimes dropped pieces of roasted meat, and that wooden familiars could not digest meat, but could absolutely steal it. The first time I caught him, he froze with a strip of chicken hanging from his mouth. "You cannot eat that." Ash ran. I chased him through 3 backstage corridors. Nell blocked the exit with a broom. Ash slid to a stop. The system chimed. Young hunter gained tactical lesson: never flee into a corridor with one exit. Nell looked delighted. "Do it again." "No." "For science." "No." Ash never made that mistake again. That was when the idea of memory scars became more complicated. Not every memory left visible damage. Some experiences were stored as what the system called role lessons. Scars appeared when the experience carried physical cost, fear, or sacrifice. Ash's broken eye remained his strongest one. Whenever Hale appeared nearby, Ash flattened himself against my leg or vanished behind furniture. Hale noticed during the 5th week. I had brought Ash to a supervised crafting laboratory because I needed access to proper sealant. The little wolf had been under my bench when Hale entered. Ash smelled him before I saw him. His body stiffened. A low wooden growl vibrated through the floor. Hale stopped. His eyes moved from Ash to me. "That vessel was destroyed. Damaged. I destroyed it. I repaired it." His expression did not change. "Dismiss the familiar." "No." The laboratory went quiet. I had learned enough about academy rules to know that refusing a direct safety instruction from an instructor was stupid. I also knew Ash was trembling. Hale's gloved hand flexed once. "You failed because the summon showed unstable identity." "He shows memory." "Those are not the same thing." "They may be." Hale took one step closer. Ash backed into my boot. I crouched and rested a hand on his head. "He remembers you breaking him." That finally changed Hale's face. Not much, but enough. "Impossible." That was my first opinion too. A voice from the next workbench interrupted us. "Traditional constructs cannot retain episodic memory after vessel destruction." Senna had been listening. She was one of the best students in our year and carried herself with the calm confidence of someone who had never been surprised by her own competence. Her approved summoning vessel was a silver ring etched with 3 concentric patterns. I had seen her call a long-legged glasshound from it during class. I disliked her for almost 4 minutes after meeting her because she watched Ash with the expression of a scholar examining a rare fungus. Then she crouched to his level instead of reaching for him. "Ash," I said quietly. His ears shifted. Senna noticed. "You named it." "Him." "Does the distinction come from the system or from you?" "I don't know." That answer seemed to interest her more than anything else. Hale did not share her curiosity. "Remove it from the laboratory." Sina stood. "Sir, if it truly retained memory after structural destruction, shouldn't we test it?" "No." "Why?" Hale's jaw tightened. "Because there are things more dangerous than a summon that refuses orders." He looked directly at Ash. "There are summons that learn why they should refuse." Then he left. I remembered that sentence for a long time. Sina became my rival by accident. She wanted to understand my system. I wanted her to stop calling Ash an anomaly. The Academy's annual summoning tournament was still months away, but students earned preliminary rankings through supervised demonstrations. Sina proposed that we compare our familiars under controlled conditions. I refused. She asked again the next day. I refused again. On the third day, she brought me 3 sheets of data proving that Ash's movement patterns differed from temporary summons because he anticipated obstacles before receiving commands. I read all 3 sheets. "You followed my wolf for 2 days?" "For 1 day and part of a morning." "That is worse. It is more accurate. Please stop scientifically stalking him." "Then demonstrate him properly." "No." She stared at me. I stared back. Ash stole a pencil from her pocket. Senna looked down. Ash ran. I closed my eyes. The system chimed. "Young hunter gained opportunistic lesson. Scholars carry useful sticks." Senna smiled for the first time. "I like him." "You are encouraging crime." "Only data collection." Despite myself, I agreed to a controlled exercise. Not combat, a pursuit course. Senna's glasshound was faster, stronger, and more obedient. Ash had no chance in a direct race, so he did not race. The course ran through a maze of low barriers, with 3 marked targets hidden inside. The winner had to retrieve all 3 in return. Senna's hound waited for instructions at every junction. Ash did not. He had spent weeks navigating theater corridors, storage rooms, and crowded halls. He understood that the shortest visible path was not always the fastest route. At the second barrier, he disappeared beneath a loose panel instead of going around it. At the third target, the glass hound reached the object first. Ash watched it pick up the marker. Then he turned around and ran toward the final target instead of fighting. Senna's expression changed. He inferred loss. He learned that fighting stronger opponents wastes time. From what? I thought of Hale. Experience. Ash returned with 2 targets. The glass hound returned with 1. The official observer called it a draw because the rules had assumed each familiar would attempt every objective. Senna called it evidence. The system called it something else. Role milestone reached. Young hunter has learned independent priority. Class progress increased. Facemaker, stage 2. New craft principle available. Shared grain. I did not understand the phrase until the old beam cracked. It happened during a storm. Rain struck the academy windows hard enough to drown conversation. The theater roof leaked in 5 places. Nell and I had placed buckets beneath 4 of them and surrendered to the 5th. Moro arrived after midnight, carrying an oilcloth and 3 lengths of old rope. He was the theater's unofficial keeper, though the academy had stopped paying him years before. He had white hair, a bent nose, and the ability to appear whenever something expensive was about to break. He watched water crawl down the rear wall. "That beam finally took enough," he said. I followed his gaze. One of the old backstage braces had split near the base. I tapped it twice. Tuck, thud, rot inside. "We need to unload it now." Nell looked at the scenery stacked above. "In this rain?" "Especially in this rain." We worked until dawn. The porter masks carried flats and trunks. The crawler pulled guide ropes. Ash ran messages between the stage and storage rooms when shouting became impossible over the storm. When the beam finally came free, Moro stopped me from throwing it into the salvage pile. "Keep the dry heartwood." "Why?" "Old growth." He ran one thumb over the exposed grain. "Older than the academy, if the stories are true." Nell snorted. "Everything here is older than the academy according to you." "The debt certainly feels that way." I cut away the rotten outer layers. The heartwood was dark, tight-grained, and strangely warm under my fingers. I made 3 masks from it: a crow, a small 6-legged carrier, and a narrow-faced watcher designed to sit quietly above doors. The moment all three awakened, I nearly dropped my knife. I saw the ceiling, not through my eyes, through the crow's. Then the image shifted, a floor-level view of my boots from the carrier. Then the side of Nell's face from the watcher mounted on a shelf. The impressions came as flashes, not continuous vision. Shared grain awakened. Masks born from one tree may exchange witnessed space. Memory is not copied. Perspective is shared. Limit, distance, attention, structural relation. I sat down hard. Nell waved a hand in front of my face. Cal? I can see the back of your head. She immediately covered it with both hands. Stop! I am not choosing to. Learn. The practical use was obvious. The danger took longer. If one mask could see what another saw, I could coordinate them without issuing constant commands. The crow could scout a route. The porter could then move through it. The watcher could alert Ash to someone approaching from behind. My creations stopped behaving like separate tools. They became a company. That was the word Nell used, not army, company. You keep assigning them roles, she said one evening while helping me catalog masks. You even argue with them like actors. Actors usually complain more, only because actors can speak. The light bearer deliberately turned its glow away from me. Nell pointed. That one understood you. I know. Maybe apologize. I apologized to a lamp with legs. It turned back. The system chimed. Ensemble behavior recognized. Facemaker approaches class boundary. Requirement for master of masks. Create cooperation without removing individuality. I hated the wording because it sounded philosophical when I wanted instructions. I tried the obvious approach. I carved matching masks. It failed. 3 identical fox faces produced 3 weak, confused familiars with almost no distinction between them. Their role signals overlapped until they hesitated whenever more than one received a command. The system explained with ruthless simplicity. Repeated face detected. A copied role has less truth. Craft intention reduced. I broke none of them. I sanded each differently, altered the ears, repainted the markings, and gave them separate tasks. One became a runner, one became a scent tracker, one became a quiet guard that preferred sitting under tables. Their strength improved, so did mine. That discovery ruined every plan I had for mass production. It also saved me from becoming rich too quickly. The first serious accident happened in a training yard near the end of the 3rd month. Sina had convinced me to observe a practical class on familiar coordination. I brought Ash and 2 shared grain masks to test distance limits. Everything went wrong because someone else's summon panicked. A temporary stone beast broke its control line and charged toward the spectator rail. Students scattered. The instructor tried to dismiss it, but the creature's vessel had cracked. Mana surged through the broken pattern instead of collapsing. I saw 3 things at once. Through my own eyes, the beast turned toward a cluster of students trapped against the fence. Through the crow above, I saw the open maintenance gate behind it. Through the small watcher on the rail, I saw Senna stepping forward to intercept. Her glass hound was not strong enough. Neither was Ash. Do not attack the beast, I said. Senna looked at me as if I had gone mad. Ash, heels! He ran, not at the stone beast, at the rear of its legs. The first time Ash had faced a stronger opponent, he had learned not to attack the shield first. Now, he bit the loose strap hanging from the creature's cracked vessel harness. The stone beast kicked. Ash flew across the yard and hit the ground hard enough to split one side of his mask. Something in me went cold. The old fear returned instantly. Falling timber, breaking wood, the sound of something I had built coming apart because I'd misjudged the load. For half a second, I froze. That half second nearly killed Senna. She stepped between the beast and the trapped students. Her hound braced. I forced air into my lungs. The theater had taught me one lesson before any other. When something failed during a performance, panic was a luxury for later. Crow, gate. The crow swooped through the maintenance opening. The porter saw the route through shared grain. I pointed at a stack of sandbags used for boundary markers. Move those. Block the left path. The porter obeyed. The beast hit the improvised barrier, turned toward the only clear lane, and followed the motion of the crow through the open gate. Senna dismissed her hound and slammed the gate shut behind it. The instructor finally severed the damaged vessel connection from outside the yard. The stone beast collapsed. I ran to Ash. One ear was gone. A long crack ran from his jaw to the back of his head. He tried to stand. "Don't!" He stood anyway. The system appeared. Critical memory scar formed. Young Hunter protected the company against a stronger threat. Lesson retained. Weakness is not the same as helplessness. Role evolution available. Young Hunter may become Stage Scout, except... My hand shook. Ash leaned against my wrist. I understood then that the system was asking the wrong person. Or maybe I had been reading it wrong. I looked at him. "Do you want to keep doing this?" Senna, kneeling beside me, said nothing. Ash touched his nose to the broken strap he had ripped from the beast's harness. Then he looked toward the maintenance gate. I felt the remembered route through shared grain. A choice, not words. Enough. "Yes," I told the system. Stage Scout confirmed. Independent route judgment increased. Fear memory retained. Courage does not remove fear. That last line stayed with me. Hale arrived while I was repairing Ash in the infirmary workshop. He stood in the doorway for several seconds. I did not greet him. I was fitting a support strip inside the cracked mask so I would not have to sand away the new scar. Hale looked at the damage. "You preserved it." "The scar?" "Yes. It is his. You could restore full structural symmetry by removing the damaged section. And remove the memory." Hale went still. I looked up. "You knew that could happen." He did not answer immediately. Then he removed his leather glove. His left hand was not burned, as I had assumed. Thin white lines covered the skin from wrist to fingertips. They looked like cracks filled with pale resin. "Years ago," he said, "I trained a summon that learned beyond its intended pattern." I waited. It began as a defensive construct. It adapted to protect students. Then it decided the greatest threat to students was the academy forcing them into dangerous training. That sounds inconvenient. His mouth almost moved. It locked 3 instructors inside a barrier and attempted to evacuate an entire dormitory. I stopped working. "No one died," Hale continued, "but a student was badly injured when the construct resisted dismissal. I broke the vessel myself." Ash shifted against my knee. Hale looked at him. I heard it scream too. That changed everything and nothing. I still hated what he had done to Ash, but I no longer believed he had done it casually. "Why didn't you say that in the laboratory?" I asked. "Because fear is a poor lecturer." "And breaking things is better?" "No." His answer came too quickly to be defensive. "No," he repeated. "It is simply what I know how to do when control fails." I understood that more than I wanted to. We both repaired problems by removing damaged parts. I had only recently learned that sometimes the damage was where the lesson lived. Hale left without apologizing. I did not forgive him. But after that day, he stopped ordering me to dismiss Ash, and I stopped assuming that every warning from him was contempt. The central mystery began with a piece of wood. Moro found me sorting scraps from the storm-damaged beam and held one of the offcuts beside the base of the founder's statue in the theater lobby. "Same tree," he said. I laughed. "No tree grows wide enough to supply both." "Who said it was one ordinary tree?" I tapped the statue base. "Talk." Then the beam scrap. "Talk." The tone was almost identical. My skin prickled. The statue itself was stone, but the pedestal beneath it had a wooden core hidden under carved panels. Nell leaned over the rail above us. "If you two start worshipping furniture, I am charging admission." I ignored her. "Moro, where did this stage wood come from?" He shrugged. "The old records say the founder donated it." "How old?" "Older than the current academy plans." That sentence sent me to the archive. The archive sent me to Iris. She was a junior assistant with ink on both sleeves and the defensive posture of someone who had spent years preventing students from touching fragile documents with dirty hands. I arrived with clean hands. That earned me exactly 7 seconds of goodwill. I need the earliest floor plans for the theater wing, I said. No. Why? Restricted preservation collection. I will wear gloves. No. I will stand 6 feet away and squint. No. What would make you say yes? Iris considered. An academically valid reason. I placed 3 tracings on her desk. One showed the current theater foundation, one showed the position of the founder statue, one showed measurements I had taken from the backstage wall. The interior wall is almost 4 feet thicker than the exterior geometry requires. She looked despite herself. I continued. And the statue pedestal is aligned exactly with the old stage centerline, even though the lobby was rebuilt later. Her eyes narrowed. That could be coincidence. It could. You do not believe that. No. She took the tracings. Wait here. She returned with a copy, not an original. It was enough. The oldest known plan of the theater did not match the current building. The old stage had extended deeper beneath the academy than physically possible according to the modern foundations. A corridor ended where no corridor existed now. At its end was a symbol shaped like a blank face. No label, no explanation. I felt shared grains stir through the mask hanging at my belt. For an instant, I saw a place I had never visited. Dark wood, a curved wall, a row of empty hooks. Then the vision vanished. I gripped the edge of the desk. Iris noticed. What happened? I think the building just remembered something. She stared at me. That is not an academically valid sentence. I know. It was, however, true. The masks made from the old beam had connected to something larger. Not continuously, only in flashes. When I concentrated near the founder's statue, the shared grain impressions strengthened. I saw corridors behind walls, stage machinery beneath floors, and once, for less than a second, an enormous empty space filled with hanging shapes. Masks. Thousands of them. Then came the first message that frightened the system itself. External grain detected. Source scale exceeds class authority. Do not synchronize. I read it twice. Systems were not supposed to sound nervous. I did not synchronize. Not then. Instead, I did something more dangerous. I told Ver. That was my mistake. At the time, it felt responsible. Ver was the chancellor of the academy. He was calm, precise, and almost impossible to surprise. His office contained no decorative weapons, no trophies, and no paintings of himself. I liked him immediately, which should have warned me. He listened while I explained the old wood, the mismatched plans, and the shared grain visions. He asked only useful questions. Can you reproduce the connection with new masks? Only from the same material. Can those masks communicate across the entire campus? I do not know. Can they transmit commands? Images and spatial impressions, not commands. He folded his hands. That may be safer. I should have asked, safer for whom? Instead, I felt relieved that an authority figure believed me. Ver granted me supervised access to old maintenance spaces beneath the theater. He also arranged a small academy contract for my porter masks. That money cleared another portion of the theater debt. Nell celebrated by buying a cake that was mostly icing and financially irresponsible. Ver likes the project, I told her. She chewed slowly. Of course he does. What does that mean? It means powerful people rarely become interested in stagehands because they suddenly respect stagehands. He gave us a contract. Exactly. You are suspicious of free money. There is no free money. She pointed her fork at me. There is cheap money, expensive money, stolen money, inherited money, and money someone plans to collect later. I should have listened more carefully. The old maintenance corridor opened behind a panel beneath the stage. Morrow claimed he had never seen it. Nell accused him of lying. He replied that at his age, forgetting and lying were often indistinguishable. The corridor descended farther than the academy foundations should have allowed. I brought Ash, 2 shared grain watchers, a light bearer, and Senna. I had not invited Hale. He came anyway. I was assigned to supervise. By Ver? Yes. That should have been my second warning. The corridor walls changed as we descended. Stone became wood, not beams, wooden walls. Smooth, dark, seamless surfaces curved around us like the inside of a gigantic carved shell. I tapped one. Tok! Every shared grain mask answered at once. The vision hit so hard I staggered. A stage beneath a sky that did not exist, rows of faceless figures, a voice without sound assigning functions: guardian, carrier, scout, healer, commander, discard. I tore my hand away. Ash growled. Senna caught my shoulder. "What did you see?" "A production line." Hale's expression hardened. "For what?" "People." The word felt wrong even as I said it. Not people exactly. Roles. The ancient structure had been designed to take living or summoned beings and impose stable functions on them. Not teach, not train. Define, the system whispered. Foreign stage detected. Authority model. Assigned role. Living stage model. Earned role. Conflict recognized. I stared at the words. The central conflict of my new life had just introduced itself with perfect clarity. My system believed roles should be earned through experience. The thing under the academy believed roles should be assigned from above, and Ver had given me access to it. We found a sealed circular door at the end of the corridor. Its surface was carved into a blank human face. Ash refused to approach. Hale did not touch it. Senna studied the edges. "No hinges." "No handle," I said. Nell had not come below with us, but I heard her voice in my head anyway. Everything in theater is a long story. The door was a face, so I treated it like a mask. I tapped twice. Talk, talk. The entire corridor answered. A crack appeared at the corner of the carved mouth. Then the system screamed one word. "Stop." I stepped back. The crack sealed. No one spoke for several seconds. Hale looked at me. "That is the first sensible thing your magic has said." I agreed. We returned without opening the door. Ver was disappointed. He hid it well. "You were correct to exercise caution," he said. But his fingers tightened once against the edge of his desk. I noticed because stage work had trained me to watch hands. Hands revealed tension before faces did. That was when I began distrusting him. Not enough. Just enough to make the next months complicated. The academy tournament moved closer. I had never cared about it. The tournament was a showcase for summoners, craft students, and tactical teams. Winners earned funding, course privileges, and professional sponsorships. Senna wanted to win. Not because she needed applause. Her family had paid for her first year, but would not support what they considered an impractical academic career. A tournament award would fund the next term. I respected that. I still had no intention of entering. Then the theater debt changed. An administrative notice arrived announcing that all outstanding facility obligations had to be cleared before the end of the academic year. We had reduced the debt by more than half. It was not enough. Nell read the notice twice. "How much?" I asked. She named the amount. I sat down. "That is not a debt." "It is. That is a murder attempt written in accounting language. The tournament's craft prize would cover it." "No." "Cal?" "No." "You do not even know what I was going to say." "You were going to say I should enter." "I was going to say we should sell your kidneys." I looked at her. She sighed. "Fine, enter." I hated tournament culture. I hated crowds ranking young people as if a public result measured their worth. Most of all, I hated the idea of turning Ash and the others into entertainment. Nell did not argue with that. Instead, she asked a better question. "What if you do not enter them as fighters?" I looked toward the stage. The company was at work. Porters moved scenery. Watchers tracked tools. The crow carried a line from the rigging. Ash inspected a newly repaired trapdoor because he had decided that all floor openings were suspicious. A theater was one object from the audience. Behind the curtain, it was hundreds of roles. I stood slowly. "Now." "Yes?" "The tournament limits summons to one active vessel, doesn't it?" Her smile became dangerous. "Yes." "What counts as one vessel?" I suddenly like where this is going. The portable theater took 4 months to build. That project changed everything. At first, it was only a sketch on the back of a debt notice. A folding platform, a shallow cabinet, hinged wings, internal rails for masks, a central frame carved from the last sound heartwood of the old stage beam. One vessel, many faces. The rules did not forbid it because no normal summoner could use it. A traditional familiar required one vessel per active pattern. My masks were different. The mask itself was the living anchor, but shared grain allowed several anchors born from one structure to act as an ensemble. The question was whether the system would agree that an ensemble could be one summon. The first prototype answered by collapsing on my foot. Nell laughed until she had to sit down. "It needs another brace," I said through my teeth. "It needs mercy. It needs better hinges. It is a coffin with curtains. It is a prototype. It tried to bury you. So did my last theater. I am consistent." She stopped laughing. I regretted the joke immediately. That happens sometimes. My old death had become easy to refer to and difficult to remember honestly. I could describe it as a fact. I could joke about scenery. But a rope snapping above me still made my pulse jump. A heavy frame swinging too quickly still froze my hands. The portable theater forced me to confront that fear every day. I had to design moving scenery again. I had to trust hinges, braces, ropes, counterweights, and my own calculations. The first week, I checked every connection 3 times. The second week, 5. By the third, I was sleeping badly. Nell found me at dawn with a measuring cord in my hand, staring at a support I had already inspected. "You checked that one." "I know." "You checked it 10 minutes ago." "I know." "Cal." I pressed my thumb against the grain. "If I get it wrong, something falls." "Yes." "That is not comforting." "It is not supposed to be." She sat on the edge of the stage. "You keep trying to build a world where nothing can ever fail." "I would settle for a cabinet." "No, you wouldn't." I looked at her. Nell pointed toward Ash. He was asleep beneath the workbench with 1 cracked ear and 3 visible scars across his mask. "You know better than that now." I understood what she meant. Ash was not valuable because I had prevented every wound. He was valuable because he had survived them and learned. Structures were different from living beings. A failed beam could kill someone. I would never romanticize bad engineering, but I had crossed from caution into paralysis. My fear was no longer protecting the work, it was controlling me. So I changed the design, not by making it impossible to fail, by making failure visible and recoverable. I added redundant braces, safety catches, hinges that could jam without collapsing the whole frame. Every major load had a second path. Every moving panel could be lowered manually. The portable theater became heavier. It also became honest. The system rewarded that more than elegance. Craft principle recognized. A stage is not safe because nothing breaks. A stage is safe because one break does not become catastrophe. Facemaker progress increased. I laughed when I read it. Now my magic is teaching structural engineering. Nell looked over my shoulder. "Your magic has met you." By the 8th month after my reincarnation, the portable theater could unfold in less than a minute. The cabinet opened into a small black stage with 2 side towers and a roof frame. Masks hung inside on sliding rails. Shared grain lines ran through the old heartwood like invisible nerves. The first time I activated it, 6 familiars emerged at once. A porter, a runner, a crow, a light bearer, a shield-faced guardian, Ash. The system stayed silent for 3 long seconds. Then words appeared. Composite vessel recognized. Designation, Company Theater. Active object count, 1. Active roll count, 6. Warning, coordination load transferred to ensemble logic. I shouted loud enough for Morrow to drop a hammer in the next room. Nell ran in with a fire bucket. "What exploded?" "Nothing." "That is not how you normally shout." It counted as 1. She looked at the unfolded theater, then at the 6 familiars, then back at me. Her grin spread slowly. "We are going to make the tournament judges very unhappy." Senna was less amused. "That interpretation is offensive. It is legal. It is spiritually illegal. That is not a category. It should be." She walked around the company theater, examining every joint. "You are not controlling 6 summons." "No." "They are coordinating through shared grain." "Yes." "So if I disrupt one role, the others adapt." "Probably." "Probably?" "I have never had anyone deliberately attack the system." Senna looked at me. I looked at her. "No, I said. "You do not know what I was going to ask." "You were going to ask to attack the system." "I was going to ask to test the system." "With attacks." "Some." "No." She crossed her arms. Ash walked over and sat on her shoe. Senna looked down. "He agrees with me." "He wants your pencil." She checked her pocket. The pencil was gone. Ash was already under the stage. Some lessons became traditions. We did test the company theater, carefully. The first major weakness was obvious. Shared grain transmitted perspective, not intent. When too many masks reacted at once, they flooded one another with visual information. The result was chaos. During one trial, the crow saw a moving flag, the runner saw a rolling ball, the guardian saw Senna's hound, and Ash saw a sandwich on a bench. All 6 familiars changed direction. 2 collided. The porter walked into a wall. The light bearer climbed onto the guardian's back. Ash got the sandwich. The system was merciless. Ensemble failure recorded. Shared perspective without shared purpose creates noise. Requirement remains unmet. Create cooperation without removing individuality. That requirement followed me for weeks. My first instinct was to solve it with commands. I wrote priority rules: protect the stage, protect people, complete assigned tasks, ignore irrelevant stimuli. The familiars became more efficient. They also became worse. The runner stopped helping the porter when a wheel jammed, because assistance was not its assigned task. The guardian ignored a falling box because it was not a threat from an enemy. Ash followed the rules for exactly half an hour before finding a way to interpret "protect the stage" as permission to chase anyone carrying food near it. The system gave me no progress. I grew angry. Then Nell watched one rehearsal and said, "You are directing badly." "I am not directing." "That is the problem. I gave them clear rules. You gave them a prison schedule. They need priorities. Actors need objectives." I frowned. "That sounds like the same thing." "It is not." She walked onto the little stage and tapped the guardian's mask. "A rule says, stand here unless this happens. An objective says, keep the company safe. Then the actor decides how." "They are familiars," Ash barked once. Nell nodded toward him. "Tell him that." So I rewrote everything. Not rules, purposes. The porter's purpose was to keep the company moving. The runner's purpose was to make sure information reached where it mattered. The guardian's purpose was to create safe space. The light bearer's purpose was to make hidden work visible. The crow's purpose was to discover what the others could not see. Ash's purpose was the hardest. I asked him. He looked at the stage, then at me, then at the door. A shared grain impression came through, a path winding beyond the visible room. I smiled. Find the way forward. Ash wagged his wooden tail. The next rehearsal was slower, less precise, much better. When the porter jammed a wheel, the runner helped because keeping the company moving mattered more than staying inside one narrow task. When the crow saw an irrelevant flag, the others ignored it because it did not affect their purpose. When Senna released her glass hound as an unexpected obstacle, the guardian did not attack. It moved the light bearer and runner behind cover while Ash searched for another route. No single command produced the behavior. They decided. The system appeared in bright letters that made my chest tighten. Class boundary completed. Cooperation achieved without identity suppression. Facemaker evolved. Master of masks acquired. New authority. Ensemble call. New principle. Memory chorus. Limit retained. A role without choice becomes hollow. I read the last line several times. Senna read it too. Your system has opinions. I noticed. What is memory chorus? I did not know until Ash touched the central heartwood frame. For one instant, I remembered things that had never happened to me. A ceiling beam from the crow's view. The weight of a scenery crate through the porter's arms. Warm stage light through the bearer's eyes. The stone beast turning in the training yard through Ash's fear. Then it stopped. I staggered backward. The masks remained separate. Their memories had not merged. But the company theater could let them present selected memories together, like scenes placed on the same stage. Memory chorus did not create one mind. It created context. That distinction would later save the Academy. At the time, I used it to solve a missing hammer. The crow had seen Moro leave it on the balcony. The runner had seen Nell move a box in front of it. Ash had seen me search the wrong room. Together, the memories reconstructed the entire sequence. Moro watched me retrieve the hammer. You have invented witnesses that cannot forget. They can forget. I touched Ash's oldest scar. If I repair the wrong thing. Moro's expression softened. That may be worse. He was right. Memory made the masks more useful. It also made responsibility heavier. By the 9th month, I stopped making masks for customers unless I could personally inspect the intended role. The business shrank. The quality improved. The theater debt decreased more slowly, but fewer masks came back with frightened or confused behavior. I had become a worse merchant and a better maker. Nell approved. Profit is not a personality. It helps pay for roofs. So do buckets. We have enough buckets. We have never had enough buckets. The Academy contract from Ver expanded during those months. He requested more porter masks for moving archive crates and maintenance materials. He requested watchers for old corridors. He requested mapping data from shared grain. I refused the last request. He accepted the refusal too easily. That made me more suspicious than anger would have. Senna and I began comparing notes. Her own research showed unusual mana drains across the campus whenever large numbers of familiars were summoned. The tournament practice grounds produced the strongest spikes. Energy loss? I asked. Energy transfer. To where? She laid a map over the table. Every line converged beneath the founder's statue. I felt cold. The tournament was not merely an event held above the ancient structure. It fed it. We brought the evidence to Hale. He believed us immediately. That frightened me more. Why are you not surprised? I asked. He removed his glove and flexed the scarred hand. The construct I destroyed years ago kept trying to lead students away from the central grounds during mass summoning exercises. Senna leaned forward. You thought it was rebelling. I thought it had developed an irrational avoidance pattern. It was warning you, I said. Hale looked toward the floor. Yes. The word carried years of weight. Did Ver know? I reported every incident to him. There it was. Not proof. Enough. We needed to know what lay behind the blank-faced door. This time we did not ask Ver. Iris found a second archive plan hidden inside a conservation copy. The outer drawing showed the academy. A faint underdrawing showed something else. Not classrooms. Stages. Concentric stages connected by channels. At the center was a symbol shaped like an open eye inside a mask. A line of old script had been translated in the margin by an unknown hand. Iris read it aloud. Function is peace. Choice is disorder. Nell, standing beside me, made a face. I hate it already. So do I. Moro tapped the margin. There is another line. Iris angled the page toward the light. The first master refused completion. The founder? Senna asked. Probably, I said. The old stories said the founder had built the academy after a long regional war. Students learned summoning because the founder believed controlled familiars could replace human soldiers in dangerous work. The stories did not say that he had inherited a machine designed to assign perfect roles. Maybe because he had tried to bury it. Maybe because the academy itself was the burial. We returned below the theater at night. This time Nell came. She refused to remain behind after learning that the stage might literally be connected to a buried machine. Moro stayed above to watch the entrance. Iris stayed with him to monitor the old plans and signal if patrols approached. That kept our active named group small, and more importantly, kept the archive assistant away from a door that had frightened my system. The blank face waited at the end of the curved wooden corridor. I brought the company theater. Master of Masks changed the way I sensed the structure. Shared grain no longer felt like random flashes. I could perceive relationships in the wood. The old beam in my theater, the pedestal above, the corridor walls, the door. They were not pieces of the same tree. They were pieces of the same mask. That realization made my stomach drop. I placed my palm against the blank face. The system appeared. Foreign stage access available. Warning. Opening may attract assigned authority. Master of Masks may observe without accepting role. Proceed? Yes. The door did not open. It remembered opening. Memory chorus flooded through me. I stood in the same corridor centuries earlier. The walls were new then. The founder stood before the door, but his face was blurred by the memory, as if the structure had never learned his identity properly. Behind him were workers carrying enormous carved panels. A voice came from beyond the door. Director authority vacant. Accept command role. The founder answered, No. Function requires direction. No. Disorder will resume. Then let people choose badly. The memory shook. The founder pressed both hands against the wooden wall. You were built to end conflict by turning everyone into a part. You cannot understand why that is worse than conflict. Director authority available. He laughed bitterly. I will give you a role instead. The next image was impossible. The entire ancient complex disappeared beneath an enormous carved identity. Walls became classrooms, stages became courtyards, control channels became corridors. The machine was not destroyed. It was covered by a mask so complete that the mask became architecture. The founder's voice faded. Be a school. The memory ended. I fell to my knees. Nell caught my arm. Senna whispered, What did you see? I told them. Hale was silent for a long time. Then the blank door spoke aloud. Not in my head, through the corridor. Director candidate recognized. Master of Masks compatible. Return at culmination. Nell looked at me. What is culmination? I already knew. The tournament. The floor trembled once. Far above us, bells began ringing midnight. The Academy tournament was 3 weeks away. We confronted Ver the next morning, not with accusations, with a question. What happens at culmination? I asked. His face did not move. Then he closed the office door. I had hoped you would learn later. Senna's hand moved toward her summoning ring. Hale shook his head once. Ver noticed both gestures. I am not going to attack you. That is comforting, Nell said. People always become trustworthy immediately after saying that. Ver ignored the remark. He looked at me. How much did the old stage show you? Enough. Then you know what is under us. A machine that assigns roles. A stabilization engine. That is a polite name for it. It ended wars. By removing choice. By making armies unnecessary. I stared at him. Ver opened a drawer and removed several reports. He spread them across the desk. Border ward failures. Mana storms. Protective barrier decay. Summoning infrastructure breakdown. I recognized enough terminology to understand the pattern. The region's defenses were failing. How long? Senna asked. 5 years before the outer ward network becomes unreliable. Less if the northern channels collapse early. Nell frowned. And the machine fixes that? It can create and coordinate stable defensive entities on a scale modern summoning cannot match. At what cost? I asked. Ver met my eyes. At activation, it requires a living command structure. The room became very quiet. Define living command structure. He did. Students as base roles, teachers as supervisory roles, skilled summoners as high-order control nodes. The people inside the academy during culmination would become the first template. Not necessarily killed, that was worse. Rewritten. Their personalities would remain only where compatible with assigned function. Senna's voice went flat. You invited thousands of people to the tournament. I invited enough power to wake the system. Hale stepped forward. You knew what happened to my construct. Yes. You knew it was reacting to this place. Yes. Hale's scarred hand closed into a fist. Veer did not retreat. I also knew that if I told you, you would have destroyed every unusual summon you saw. At the time, that was useful. The cruelty of the statement was not emotional. That made it worse. Ver truly believed every person in the room could be reduced to function if the outcome justified it. I understood him then. He was not hungry for power. He was terrified of disorder. He had looked at failing wards, political arguments, inconsistent funding, selfish families, frightened students, and unpredictable people, and concluded that choice was the defect. The ancient machine agreed with him. "You used my academy contracts to map the old structure," I said. "Yes." "You encouraged my masks because shared grain can synchronize with it." "Yes." "And the company theater?" His eyes sharpened. "That is the final piece." I felt sick. All my progress suddenly looked like a path he had cleared for me. The money, the access, the tournament eligibility. I had built the key. There saw the realization. "You think that makes your work false? It makes me useful to you. You were useful before you knew me. That does not make you mine." The sentence surprised me because it was almost kind. Then he continued, "But usefulness creates obligation." There it was, his entire philosophy in 6 words. Nell laughed once without humor. "No, it does not." There looked at her. "The theater exists because the academy permits it. The theater exists because people keep repairing it. Permission and labor are both conditions. You really can turn anything into a contract, can't you? I can turn anything into a structure." I stepped between them. "Cancel the tournament." "No." "Then I will not enter." Their's expression finally changed. Not fear, disappointment. "You misunderstand the stage you built. The system has already recognized it. Whether you enter voluntarily or not, culmination will search for the strongest compatible composite vessel on the grounds." My stomach dropped. "The company theater." "Yes." "Then I will destroy it." Ash growled at my feet. The system flashed before my eyes. "Warning, mass vessel destruction will erase accumulated memory." I closed my mouth. Ver had expected that too. "You will not," he said, "because unlike me, you cannot sacrifice a few identities for a larger need." "You say that like it is weakness." "I say it like it is predictable." We left without solving anything. That was the lowest point of my year. For 3 days, I did almost nothing. The portable theater stood folded in the workshop. I could not look at it without seeing Ver's plan. Every mask inside represented months of work and experience. Destroying the structure might stop activation. It might also erase connections, memories, and perhaps the masks themselves. Keeping it risked everyone in the academy. I hated choices where every available action felt like becoming someone I did not want to be. Hale wanted to evacuate the campus. Senna wanted to expose Ver publicly. Nell wanted to sabotage the tournament infrastructure. All 3 ideas had problems. An evacuation could trigger early activation if the machine interpreted mass departure as instability. Public exposure depended on convincing authorities before Ver could control the message. Sabotage risked uncontrolled mana discharge. Iris quietly checked the oldest records for a shutdown method. Morrow inspected the founder's pedestal and found no mechanical release. I sat with Ash. He rested his scarred head on my knee. "I made you," I said. His ear moved. "I do not know what that gives me the right to decide." Ash looked toward the company theater. Memory chorus stirred. I saw the training yard from his perspective. The stone beast. The stronger threat. The maintenance gate. Do not attack the shield first. Weakness is not the same as helplessness. Find the way forward. I stood up. Ver believed my compassion made me predictable. He was right. I would not destroy the masks, so I stopped treating that as an option. The ancient machine believed every conflict should be solved by assigning the correct function, so I stopped trying to beat it through function. The founder had covered it with a role: be a school. For centuries, the mask had played that role, but had it only played? That question had haunted the story from the moment Ash screamed. At what point did a created role become a real identity? Ash had started as a badly carved wolf. Now he made choices I had never programmed. The academy had started as a disguise. What had centuries of students, teachers, arguments, failures, celebrations, repairs, meals, examinations, friendships, mistakes, and ordinary days done to it? Maybe the mask was no longer hiding the academy. Maybe the mask was the academy. I ran to the old stage. Nell followed. What? The building has memory scars. She stopped. I pointed at the patched floor. The fire marks, the rebuilt walls, the old stage beam. Every repair kept part of what happened. Buildings do not have your system. This one does not need mine. It is a mask. Her eyes widened. I touched the wood. Shared grain stirred faintly. The founder gave it a role, but it has been living that role for centuries. Nell understood before I finished. You wanted to choose. Yes. How do you ask a building? I looked at the company theater. By showing it how. The plan was terrible. That was how I knew it was probably ours. We could not prevent culmination without risking an uncontrolled activation, so we would let the tournament begin. I would enter with the company theater, making myself the most attractive, compatible director candidate. Sina would compete normally and remain close enough to disrupt external summoning channels if needed. Hale would watch the safety network and delay any attempt to lock down exits. Nell would remain with the portable stage crew and protect the physical theater. Iris would monitor the archive diagrams from outside the arena. Moro would stay beneath the old theater near the founder's pedestal and signal changes through a simple mechanical line we rigged, rather than magical communication. No one liked the plan. That made 5 of us with good judgment and 1 wolf with poor respect for pencils. The night before the tournament, I repaired the company theater, not cosmetically, structurally. I left every mark that carried memory. A scorch from the light-bearer's first overload, a dent from the collapsed prototype, a gouge where Ash had once tried to climb the cabinet and failed, a dark stain from Nell's spilled tea. She wanted me to sand that one. No, it is not a meaningful scar. It reminds me that you laughed when the prototype fell on my foot. That memory should absolutely be removed. I kept it. At midnight, the system appeared, Master of Masks milestone available. Company theater contains 183 living roles. Independent lessons retained, 412. Memory scars retained, 97. Composite identity stability, incomplete. I frowned. Incomplete? The next line appeared. A company is not one because it shares a stage. A company becomes one when it can continue after the director stops speaking. I understood what the final class required. Then I laughed quietly. Of course, Emperor of Theater would not be granted for perfect command. It would be granted for making command unnecessary. On the morning that marked almost exactly 1 year since I had died beneath a stage wall, I walked into the Academy arena carrying another stage on my back. The symmetry was cruel enough to be funny. The arena held thousands of people. Students filled the lower tiers. Teachers and guests occupied the shaded galleries. Summoning circles covered the field in geometric patterns. The founder's statue stood above the northern arch. Its stone face looked calm. I knew there was wood beneath it. I also knew the entire academy was listening. The tournament officials inspected the folded company theater. One frowned. One vessel? One vessel. It contains multiple masks. They are integrated components. That seems deliberately irritating. Yes. He checked the rule sheet 3 times. Then he stamped my entry. Nell, waiting behind the boundary rail, whispered, "I told you they would hate it." The early rounds were not dramatic battles. That helped me. One tested obstacle navigation. Another tested retrieval under pressure. A third required protecting fragile targets while hostile constructs interfered. Traditional summoners brought stronger individual familiars. My company brought jobs. When a heavy barrier blocked the route, the porter moved it while Ash scouted around. When illusion smoke covered the field, the crow flew above it and shared grain guided everyone below. When an opponent's fast familiar targeted our objective, the Guardian did not chase it. The Guardian created safe space while runners changed routes. We did not dominate, we adapted. That distinction kept surprising people. The crowd began cheering Ash after he tricked a much larger armored bird into chasing him through a gate too narrow for its wings. Ash did not understand cheering. He did understand that someone in the front row had food. Nell intercepted him before he abandoned the field. "Professional standards," she told him. Ash sneezed at her. The system chimed. Stage Scout gained social lesson. Crowds are loud and occasionally edible. I covered my face. Senna found me between rounds.
"You are smiling. I am worried." "You smile when worried?"
"Apparently." She looked toward the founder's statue. "No change yet. Mana flow? Increasing. There, watching you." I did not look toward the Chancellor's gallery. That would have told him too much. The semi-final nearly ended everything early. My opponent used a huge serpent familiar designed to disrupt other summons through resonance. The first pulse hit the company theater like a hammer. Shared grain shattered into noise. The crow lost orientation. Two runners collided. The light-bearer dimmed. Ash dropped to his belly and covered his ears. I reached for direct control. Then I stopped. The final class requirement came back to me. Continue after the director stops speaking. I lowered my hand. Nell saw what I was doing. "Cal?" I said nothing. The serpent pulsed again. The company staggered. Then the guardian moved. Not because I commanded it. It placed itself between the resonance wave and the central frame. The porter braced the guardian. The light-bearer climbed onto the porter's back and brightened, giving the crow a fixed visual point. The crow regained altitude. The runner followed its perspective to the far side of the field. Ash lifted his head. The serpent's resonance pattern required it to coil before each pulse. Ash saw the motion. He did not attack. He ran to the far boundary. The serpent followed. The company shifted with him, each role interpreting the shared purpose. Keep moving. Create safety. Find what others cannot see. The serpent coiled for another pulse. Ash darted behind a standing resonance pillar built into the arena. The serpent released its wave. The pillar reflected part of the pulse back. The serpent's vessel cracked. Its summoner dismissed it immediately. We won. I had not given a single command for almost a full minute. The system appeared across my vision. Final class condition met. The company continued when the director was silent. Master of Masks may evolve. Available class, Emperor of Theater. Accept authority? I almost said yes. Then I noticed the wording, accept authority, not accept class. A second message appeared beneath it. Foreign stage requests synchronization. Director candidate confirmed. The arena floor trembled. The founder's statue cracked across the cheek. The crowd gasped. My blood went cold. Ver stood in the Chancellor's gallery. He was not smiling. He looked relieved. Culmination had begun. The final match was never announced. Every summoning circle in the arena lit at once. Familiars across the field froze. Traditional summons turned toward the center. Students shouted commands. Nothing responded. The ancient machine spoke through every amplified crystal in the arena. Culmination threshold reached. Living command structure detected. Director candidate available. Assigning provisional roles. People began to change, not physically. Their posture changed first. A student near the rail straightened and turned toward the nearest exit. "Guard route," he said flatly. Another picked up an injured competitor. "Carry asset." A teacher raised both hands and began issuing directions in a voice stripped of emotion. "Organize units." The words spread. Guard, carry, command, heal, observe. The machine was not controlling bodies like puppets. It was narrowing people until only one function remained. Senna slammed her summoning ring against the stone rail. Her glass hound shattered into light. The self-inflicted dismissal broke the connection before the machine could seize it. She looked at me. "Now, Cal." I unfolded the company theater. 183 masks awakened inside. The ancient system reacted immediately. Composite vessel recognized. Director authority compatible. Accept command role. The offer hit like pressure behind my eyes. For one terrifying second, I understood what Ver wanted. Not abstractly, emotionally. The company theater opened beneath my awareness like a map. Every mask, every role, every sightline, every person in the arena. The buried structure offered me the ability to assign them all. No confusion, no delay. No one disobeying because of fear, pride, hunger, grief, stupidity, ambition, or love. I could make the arena safe in seconds. I could make the academy efficient. I could repair the failing wards. I could prevent accidents. I could build a world where the brace never failed because every person always did exactly what the structure required. My hands stopped shaking. That frightened me most. Ver's voice came through the field amplification. "Cal, take it." I looked up. He had reached the central platform. People moved around him in assigned patterns. He remained himself because the machine recognized him as a supervisory candidate. "You can control the transition," he said. "Without you, it will assign crudely. With you, we can preserve more identity." More? As much as function permits. Nell climbed over the boundary rail. The machine caught her halfway across the field. She stopped. Her face emptied. "Stage support," she said. My stomach twisted. Of all roles, it chose that. Of course it did. Nell had spent her life holding other people's performances together. The machine saw her skill and turned it into a cage. She walked toward the company theater and reached for a damaged hinge. "Nell." She did not look at me. "Support stage." I remembered the first night. Her broom, her bad glue, her laughter, her argument that actors needed objectives, not prisons. I touched the central heartwood. Memory chorus. The company theater opened, not to the machine, to Nell. I sent one memory, the portable theater collapsing on my foot. Her laughter, the tea stain, her voice saying that a stage was not worth people beneath it. She stumbled. "Support stage," the machine repeated through her mouth. I sent another memory. Nell refusing to let a porter classify her as cargo. A person is not an object unless clearly consenting. Her fingers stopped on the hinge. Her face tightened. "Support?" She looked at me. Then she swore. The assigned role broke. The system flashed. Independent identity restored through contextual memory. The ancient machine reacted. Variance detected. Correcting. A wave of pressure crossed the arena. Nell dropped to one knee. I understood. The machine could narrow a person because it stripped context away. It took one useful pattern and treated it as the whole identity. Memory chorus could fight that. Not by giving orders, by reminding people they were more than one role. "Senna!" I shouted. She understood immediately. Her assigned function had not fully taken hold because she had broken her familiar link. She ran toward the nearest student and slapped him. That was not the technique I had envisioned. "Your name is not guard route," she shouted. "You hate morning exercises, and you cheated at cards last week." The student blinked. It worked badly, but it worked. Hale entered the arena through the west gate. The machine caught him. Instructor. Suppress instability. His scarred hand rose toward Ash. Ash froze. For one terrible second, first-day history repeated itself. Hale's face became empty. Unstable summon detected. Ash backed away. I reached for memory chorus. Hale moved first. His raised hand shook. He looked at the scars across his own fingers, then at Ash's broken eye. "No," he said. The machine pressed harder. Suppress instability. Hale clenched his fist. "I already made that mistake." He drove his gloved hand into the control crystal beside the gate. The crystal shattered. The Western assignment channel died. Hale fell against the wall, breathing hard. The system chimed. Memory may resist imposed role without external restoration. The lesson mattered beyond him. People were not masks. They already contained their own memory chorus. They only needed enough of it to resist being reduced. The company theater spread shared grain across the arena. The crow showed roots. Runners carried physical objects connected to personal memories, bags, notebooks, broken training tools, ridiculous lucky charms. The light bearers illuminated faces instead of targets. The porters moved injured people without treating them as cargo because they had learned that lesson months ago. The Guardian created spaces where overwhelmed students could recover. Every humble working role I had once built for money became useful, not because they were powerful, because they knew how to support people without deciding what people should be. Ver watched his perfect activation become messy. For the first time, anger broke through his calm. You are wasting the window. I am saving the people in it. The outer wards will fail. Then we repair them. With what? Committees? Budgets? Volunteers? Another generation of arguments? Yes. He stared at me as if I had chosen madness. You have seen how fragile systems are. So have I. You died because someone failed to do their role. The words struck harder than I expected. I had told him enough about my old life during one of our early conversations for him to know that much. Ver stepped closer. You, of all people, should understand. A brace fails because someone cuts it too thin. A ward fails because someone delays funding. A city falls because someone refuses an order. Choice creates failure. My throat tightened. Above us, a support frame groaned as the arena shifted. For a second, I smelled paint and dust from my old theater. I saw the palace wall falling. Ver continued. You can build redundancy for wood. You cannot build redundancy for selfishness. He was wrong, but not completely. That was what made him dangerous. People failed. People lied. People ignored warnings. People made cheap choices and left stagehands beneath unsafe frames. I had died because of that. The ancient machine offered a world without that particular kind of death. All it wanted in return was every other kind of life. I looked at Ash. His scars made him less predictable than the creature I had first carved. They also made him real. I spent my old life behind stages, I said. I know exactly what happens when one person thinks the performance matters more than everyone working under it. Ver's jaw tightened. This is not a performance. That is your mistake. You think a structure is the same thing as the people inside it. The arena floor split. A line of dark wood rose through stone. The founder's statue cracked from forehead to chin. The crowd screamed. Then the stone face fell away. Behind it was wood. A gigantic carved face stretched through the wall beneath the statue. Not human, not exactly. A mask large enough to contain architecture. Cracks raced outward from it, across the arena walls, across towers visible beyond the open roof, across the academy itself. For one impossible moment, I saw both layers at once. Classrooms over ancient galleries, dormitories over roll chambers, courtyards over control stages. The school was peeling away from the machine beneath it. The ancient voice filled the campus. Mask integrity failing. Original function resuming. Director required. Ver looked at me. Now. I looked at the system prompt still waiting in my vision. Emperor of Theater available. Accept authority? I finally understood the trap. If I accepted authority the way the machine defined it, I would become exactly what it wanted. A director above the company. A perfect assigner of roles. That was not what my own system had taught me, so I answered carefully. I accept the class. The prompt pulsed. Authority acceptance required. No. Invalid response. I smiled. Then your wording is wrong. Ver shouted something. The ancient machine tightened around my thoughts. Director authority required. I put both hands on the company theater. I do not want authority over them. The 183 masks went still. I want responsibility to them. The living stage system vanished. For 1 second there was nothing. Then a new message appeared. Definition challenged. A director may command a role. An emperor may own a stage. What remains if ownership is refused? I thought of Nell, a company. I thought of Ash, a path forward. I thought of Hale, the right to learn from a mistake instead of being defined by it. I thought of my own death, a warning I could carry without letting it become my only role. An audience, I said. The system did not respond. I shook my head. No, more than that. The academy cracked around me. The mask was failing. People screamed. Ver reached for the central frame. Senna blocked him. I closed my eyes. What remains is someone who keeps the stage open so others can choose what to do on it. The system answered. New class interpretation accepted. Emperor of theater acquired. Authority converted. New principle. Open stage. You may unify roles without owning them. You may invite memory without forcing identity. You may offer direction. You may not erase refusal. I laughed once, breathless. That will do. Then I touched the academy. Not the floor, not the statue, the academy. Through the company theater's old heartwood, through shared grain, through every repaired piece connected to the founder's original mask, I reached toward the thing that had pretended to be a school for centuries. The ancient machine tried to seize the connection. Director authority denied, it said. I ignored it. Memory chorus, I whispered. The company theater opened completely. 183 masks offered their memories. Not all at once. That would have been noise. They offered roles. The porter remembered learning that a person was not cargo. The runner remembered abandoning a narrow task to help another role. The guardian remembered choosing protection over attack. The crow remembered finding routes no one below could see. The light bearer remembered that illumination was not about being seen, but helping others work. Ash offered the most. The breaking hand, fear, a stronger enemy, a maintenance gate, the choice not to attack the shield. The choice to protect despite weakness, the choice to find a way forward. Those memories entered the old wood. The academy answered. At first, only with images. A classroom repaired after a fire, students scratching names beneath desks, a teacher staying late with someone who had failed an exam, a kitchen serving soup during a winter storm, a cracked courtyard tile replaced 3 times, a theater nearly closed, then repaired again, 1,000 ordinary moments, then more, generations, arguments, graduations, failures, summons gone wrong, summons saved, windows broken by practice spells, roofs patched badly and then patched properly, young people arriving frightened and leaving changed. The founder had ordered the mask to be a school. But those memories were not orders, they were lived experience. The giant mask had memory scars, cracks from war, repairs from storms, additions built by people who never knew what lay beneath. Every alteration had taught it something. The ancient machine spoke. External identity is camouflage. Remove mask. The academy answered for the first time, not with words, with resistance. The cracks stopped spreading. Ver stared upward. No. The machine increased pressure. Original function, stabilization. Assigned role, school. Assigned role is false. I understood the argument. The founder had imposed the school identity just as the machine imposed soldier or porter. If freedom mattered, I could not simply demand that the academy remain a school because I preferred it. So, I did the hardest thing. I let go. Nell grabbed my shoulder. Cow, what are you doing? Not deciding for it. The building? Yes. That is a sentence I hate. So do I. I opened the connection wider. No command, no role, only context. The founder's first order, the machine's original purpose, centuries of lived memory, our masks' lessons. The academy had all of it. Now it had to choose. For several seconds, nothing happened. The arena shook violently. A tower outside lost part of its outer stone shell, revealing curved black structure beneath. People shouted. Hale ordered everyone away from the walls, using his own voice, not the machine's. Senna held the central channel closed with a cracked summoning ring and raw mana. Nell braced the company theater as the floor shifted. Ver stepped toward me. You are gambling thousands of lives on the preference of a structure. Yes. It may choose its original function. Yes. You would allow that? I looked at him. No. I would fight it if it chose to erase people. Choice does not mean freedom from consequences. He stopped. That distinction seemed genuinely new to him. The ancient machine had taught him a false pair. Either assign the correct role or accept chaos. But people had always lived between those extremes. We chose. Others responded. We repaired mistakes. We set boundaries. We built redundancies. We tried again. The Academy finally spoke. The voice was not grand. It sounded like wood settling after a long night. Role review complete. Original function rejected. Assigned role reviewed. School function retained. Reason, accumulated identity. The ancient machine answered instantly. Invalid. The Academy replied. Correction. Chosen role. Every light on campus went out. Then the buried structure screamed. Not like Ash had screamed. This was the sound of mechanisms trying to obey an authority that no longer existed. The company theater shook. Masks swung from their rails. The ancient system made one last attempt to seize director control through me. I felt roles press against my mind. Commander, controller, stabilizer, emperor. Each word offered certainty. I refused all of them. Open stage expanded. The system did not block the roles. It made space around them. I could see them without becoming them. That was the final lesson of my reincarnation. I had spent the year terrified that I did not know what I was. Old Cal, new Cal, craftsman, summoner, merchant, student, stagehand, director. I had treated identity like a mask that needed one correct face. It did not. A person could carry many roles without being reduced to any one of them. I am Cal, I said. The pressure broke. The Academy mask closed around the ancient machine, not as camouflage, as containment. The old control channels folded inward, the role chambers disconnected. Summoning energy flowed away from the central core and back into the campus wards. The founder's statue lost the rest of its stone face. The wooden face beneath remained cracked. It did not repair itself. I smiled when I saw that. Neither would I. Ver fell to his knees. No magical punishment struck him. No divine chain appeared. He simply looked around at a world that had refused his solution. The failing ward reports still existed. The political problems still existed. The Academy was still full of damaged roofs, debts, proud students, stubborn teachers, and people who made mistakes. We had not solved any of that by defeating him. We had only refused to solve it by erasing ourselves. Hale approached Ver. For a moment I thought he might hit him. He did not. Stand up, Hale said. Ver looked at him. Why? Because you are going to explain everything. It was a very Hale answer. I liked it. The tournament was cancelled, Ver was removed from office, and the investigation lasted for months. The old theater received preservation funds and the debt was cleared. Nell kept her stage. Senna received the funding she had fought for. Hale rewrote the first-year safety rules, so an unusual summon would be observed before anyone reached for a breaking tool. The Academy was still imperfect, and the outer wards still needed years of work. We had saved the right to solve those problems without turning people into functions. Ash and the company theater kept every scar. I stopped trying to make either look new. One evening, I tapped Ash's repaired mask twice. Talk, talk, still solid. The first day, I thought my power was creating faces. After a month, I thought it was making useful familiars. After a year, I finally understood. The real power lived between the role someone gave you and the person you chose to become while wearing it. Ash nudged my hand, then ran toward the kitchen. You still cannot eat, I called. He ignored me. Above us, the Academy settled around its old scars with the quiet sound of wood carrying weight. Talk, talk, still solid.